of the property, and we now have 3 titles in the name of the Philippine Judicial Academy Development Center, since we have subdivided the total area into 3 lots, and the new building will be constructed in 1 or 2 of the vacant lots. The lot where the present facilities stand comprises the biggest area. To the donated shares already obtained by the interim board, the new board continued to seek the magnanimity of more stockholders. The Academy then started using the facilities but found them inadequate. Originally a recreation club, it had limited space and lacked the necessary facilities. With only 20 dormitories available, we could only accommodate 40 participants comfortably. We tried to accommodate 3 participants to a room, but judges and court personnel complained, and we discontinued that practice. Up to now, when we have more than 50 participants, we have to house them in other accommodations like the Development Academy of the Philippines, the Days Hotel, or the Hotel Dominique. Facilities were wanting, but the land was spacious, and bold strides continued to be taken for the expansion. The big problem was funding. The BCDA funds left having become inadequate. Chief Justice Davide then had the brilliant idea of soliciting the assistance of development partners, and so we appealed to NEDA for assistance. Chief Justice Davide himself joined us at NEDA for a conference to initiate and work for the project. The Program Management Office also lent its able assistance and placed it under the Supreme Court's Action Plan for Judicial Reforms, led by Mrs. Evelyn Dumdum, upon previous authorization from the court. Our first application for 600 million pesos was on July 28, 2000, with Japan's General Grant Aid Program. We stressed the pressing need to improve judicial training to reinforce judicial reform efforts. Negotiations continued to be held. Things were practically at a standstill until, on June 8, 2005, Minister Ishii of the Embassy of Japan advised us that the source of funds would be shifted to the National Project Grant Assistance because the General Grant Aid Program had been suspended. We revised our application for the same amount of 600 million pesos and coursed it through the Department of Finance. We stressed, among others, the need to improve the quality of judicial education and training through an efficient and modern environment conducive to training. The change proved to be a blessing. As requirements were somewhat eased, things started to move faster. We rushed and worked hard at submitting our revised technical proposals within the limited time provided, since we were told that the amount available was 300 million pesos. Finally, for that golden day, on December 18, 2005, we received our Christmas present, and Chief Justice Davide his own retirement gift from the government of Japan, a grant of 300 million pesos with no conditions attached to finance the construction and equipping of the Philippine Judicial Academy Convention Center. In no time, the National Treasurer released the Notice of Availability of Funds. The Department of Budget and Management released the Special Allotment Release Order and the Notice of Cash Allocation, all in record time. It has taken the terms of 3 Chief Justices, Chief Justice Narvasa, Chief Justice Davide, and our own incumbent Chief Justice Panganiban's brief but eventful term to spell success. They all believed in the vital role that continuing judicial education plays in ensuring judicial independence, competence, and efficiency. We certainly miss the presence of former Chief Justices Narvasa and Davide today, including that of President Fidel Ramos, because of their other previous commitments. It also took the assignments of 3 Japanese ambassadors to the Philippines, Ambassador Tanaka, Ambassador Ara, and our present ambassador, Ambassador Yamazaki, to see the project through relentlessly. Today, we unveil the foundation stone marker of the center and give due recognition in lasting granite to the generosity of our stockholders. This is indeed a defining event for the Japan-Philippines Friendship Year. The generous assistance from the Japanese government is providing the wind in our sails. The bidding process is almost done. The challenging task of construction will soon be upon us. On this treasured event, we bow our heads in prayer and in a celebration of thanksgiving to the 3 Chief Justices who have been helping us, to the Supreme Court, to Ambassador Yamazaki, to our many officials and friends who, with their parallel commitment and invaluable support, helped us bridge our interim years. Onward, we will proceed to see the construction through, and hopefully in 2008, we will all be together again for the inaugural blessing and towering event. We now say goodbye to daydreaming, and we bid welcome to the reality that Ambassador Yamazaki will be presenting. For your gracious presence, for your meaningful participation in our past, in our current, and in our future efforts, the Philippine Judicial Academy, or PHILJA for short, salutes you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Justice Herrera, for bringing us the golden day to these days of construction which is now upon us. For a poor repeat of what Justice Herrera said, we are now no longer in dreamland. This is reality here and now. Reality which will be the topic of the representative of the very nation that brought us here, the nation whose generosity we now celebrate. Our speaker has been posted by his country all over the globe: Washington, D.C., Paris, Beijing, London, the United Nations in New York, Vietnam. Currently, he is the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to the Republic of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Ryuichiro Yamazaki.
The Honorable Chief Justice Artemio V. Panganiban, the Honorable Justice Amarfina Melencio Herrera, the Honorable Associate Justice Antonio T. Carpio, the Honorable Vice Chancellor Justo P. Torres Jr., the Honorable Court Administrator Christopher Locke, the Honorable Former Government Corporate Counsel Manuel Lazaro, the Honorable City Councillor Romeo Mariano, all the distinguished guests, including the Honorable Constitutional Justices from other parts of Asia, ladies and gentlemen, maganda hapon po sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much for your applause to my Tagalog, but that's the only Tagalog I know, so I will continue in English with your permission. It is with great pleasure and honor that I join you at this ceremony today. We have just heard from Associate Justice Carpio and Justice Herrera how this project was conceptualized and then how it went through the subsequent process up to the final funding approval. I take my cue from here and speak of the day the project was finally realized and Japan's reason for supporting it. As Justice Herrera just stated, it was a week before Christmas last year, on December the 18th, that the government of Japan approved the 300 million peso ODA grant for the construction and equipping of the PHILJA Development Center. The funding comes from the counter-value fund of the non-project grant assistance. That same day, I had the pleasure of formally conveying the grant approval to Secretary Teves of the Department of Finance, as well as then Chief Justice Davide of the Good News. Japan is delighted that our ODA grant, together with the funds from the Philippine government, will enable the Supreme Court to construct PHILJA's additional building and renovate its existing training facilities here in Tagaytay City. This assistance demonstrates the Japanese government's support to the Philippines' efforts to strengthen the functions of its judicial branch, since we recognize that judicial capacity building is a critical component of judicial reform, as enunciated in the Midterm Philippine Development Plan. We believe that in addition to the judicial branch composed of justices, judges, court personnel, and lawyers, this project will also benefit the entire Filipino people through a more efficient administration of justice. At this juncture, let me mention that Japan's support to the Philippine judiciary has not been limited to this grant to PHILJA alone. Just last month, on the occasion of the very successful Global Forum on Liberty and Prosperity initiated by Chief Justice Panganiban, I joined the Chief Justice in launching a technical assistance program entitled Enhancing Judicial Autonomy, Accountability, and Efficiency, and Improving the Administration of Justice. This new project, which will be funded by the Japan Special Fund, JSF, administered by the Asian Development Bank, will allow the Supreme Court to build upon the gains of an earlier Japan Special Fund funded project titled Strengthen the Independence of the Judiciary. This new Japan Special Fund project will reach out to include other branches of justice, such as the police and law enforcers, prosecutors, and public defenders. All these initiatives manifest the Japanese government's strong support for the judicial reform by the Philippines. In closing, let me reiterate my joy at being able to unveil the foundation stone today during this historic year, which marks the 50th anniversary of the normalizations of the diplomatic relations between Philippines and Japan, and which Her Excellency President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo has declared as the Philippines-Japan Friendship Year, as symbolized by this banner. Indeed, our shared values of democracy, freedom, respect for basic human rights, and the rule of law will continue to provide one of the strongest bondages for the dynamic and everlasting partnership between our two countries. I wish to express my appreciation to everyone involved in this project, and I look forward to the successful completion of the PHILJA Development Center in 2008 as scheduled. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Maraming salamat po. At mabuhay din po kayo. While we are in that Thanksgiving mood, we will go to our donors, whose generosity, there was almost nobility in the act, cannot be ignored in this event. The donors were vital in the realization of our dream to build a judicial and legal education institution without precedent, not only in the country, but also in the Asian region. Indeed, the primary task of the interim board of directors, which was immediately organized after the assignment of the shares of ownership was given to the court, was to obtain 2/3 majority requirement in order to have full control over the operations of the corporation. In 1995, through the generous support of the donors, the interim board was able to obtain by donation 132 shares. And then later on, the regular board of directors was able to obtain 60 more additional shares, so that today the Philippine Judicial Academy has 1,336 shares, equivalent to 67%, making it the owner of more than 2/3 of the total number of issued shares. Truly, the donors pushed the Academy towards its goal. To talk about the none-too-easy effort is the man who was largely responsible in identifying, locating, contacting, and then convincing the shareholders to be part of the history of Philippine judicial education. Former Government Corporate Counsel, Counsel of the President of the Republic, First General Counsel of the GSIS, legal consultant to the Land Bank of the Philippines and the PNP, writer of legal treatises, founding and managing partner of the M.M. Lazaro and Associates, the Honorable Manuel M. Lazaro.
Because of the delay of the sumptuous lunch that was prepared. So for lack of material time, I adopt the greetings made by Justice Herrera, Justice Carpio, but not the one of the ambassador because he included my name. However, I would like to include in the greetings of the two special friends of mine who I have not seen for a long, long time, and I refer to my former boss and mentor, Justice Ricardo Pono Sr., and my brother and fellow Aquilan of the Aquila Legis Fraternity, former Mayor Francis Tolentino, who was also instrumental in a way in the site that we have today. Your presence today remind me of an old Chinese saying that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step.